So now I'll show you how to install Kali Linux as a virtual machine inside VMware. I'm going to be using the ISO image, which I downloaded already from this link. So download that, install VMware or VirtualBox. Installation is simple, as I said, and the process of installing Kali Linux on either VMware or VirtualBox is the same. It's also the same process if you want to install it with Windows as dialboot, for example, but just make sure you don't overwrite the Windows files when you install it as dialboot. But when you install as a virtual machine, there's no way you can mess up your other installations, because everything is going to be installed on virtual physical on virtual hardware. So you're going to have virtual RAM, virtual hard drive, virtual everything, which basically means if anything goes wrong within your virtual machine, it will not affect your main machine. So the first thing I'm going to do is run VMware. And now I'm going to go on create a new virtual machine here. If you have the image burned on a CD, you can select it from this option, or you can use the use ISO image, which is what we downloaded. And I just have it here in downloads, and you can see here it's Kali Linux. So I'm going to open that. I'm going to click on next. Now it already knew it's a Linux, but it thought it's Ubuntu, and I'm going to change that to Debian because it's Kali Linux is built on Debian. So you see here you have Debian 64 bits. I'm going to go next, and then I'm going to call it Kali 1.1.0. Now that's just the name of the machine, and I'm gonna click next. Now it's telling me how much the hard drive should be. So it's already putting it as 20 gigabytes, and I think that's enough, so I'm just gonna leave it the way it is. So this is the virtual hard drive that that's we're gonna use to install Kali Linux on. So I'll click next, and then we can see here that's all the configurations that we chose. I'm going to modify this, so I'm going to customize, and I'm going to increase the amount of RAM to 1 gigabyte. Now you can increase this to whatever you want. You can also modify a few things here. You can modify the networking, you can modify the processors, all the resources that will be available to the virtual machine. So I changed that to 1 gigabyte here, and you have the network as NAT. I'm going to leave it the way it is, and I'm going to click on finish and close that. And now it's going to automatically boot the new virtual machine that we made, and it's going to boot it from the ISO image that we picked. Now you can use the live the live option, basically just to boot into Kali, but it's going to give you a functional Kali operating system, but anything you do on that operating system, it will be deleted the next time you boot the system. So it's basically just to see what the operating system is like, what tools are available on it. So I'm going to go down to the graphical install option. And this will basically allow me to install Kali Linux on the virtual hard drive. So it's asking me to select the language, and I'm going to keep it as English. Then it's asking me about the country that I'm in, and I'm going to change that to Ireland. So it's asking me for the host name now. I'm just going to keep it as Kali, and I'm going to go continue. And it's asking about the domain name now. I'm going to keep that empty. Now I'm going to put my password. This is the root password. Basically, the root account is the main administration account in Linux systems. So basically, this account has all privileges to do whatever you want on the system. So you might need to use this in the future. You will actually need to know this password, so make sure you remember it. So now it's asking me how do I want or where do I want to install Kali. If you're installing it as a main machine, you'd want to go probably on manual and make sure that you don't overwrite your Windows. Now, because we're installing it as a virtual machine, the hard drive, we're going to use the entire disk, which is the virtual hard drive that we created. So it's the 21 gigabytes that we selected at the start. Gonna click continue. And we're gonna put all files in the same partition. That's no problem. Continue. And it's just showing us now the configuration that we picked. I'm gonna say this is perfect. And here it's just asking us to confirm that this is what we want. Now it's installing Kali on my virtual hard drive. So I'm gonna pause the video now because there's no point of you just watching this installing. It's just gonna make the video longer, and I'll resume when the installation is finished. Okay, now it's asking me, it's telling me that some of the packages that are going to be installed are available online. So the packages are actually on the live CD or on the live ISO image, but they're also available online. So if you check the online mirrors, then there might be newer versions of these packages, so you can download these newer versions. But for now, I'm actually gonna set it to no, and if I want to update, then I'm just gonna update after I install the whole system. Now it's asking me if it should install Grob on the main boot sector. Now Grob is the bootloader that's used with Linux, and it's asking me to do so because it didn't detect any other operating systems installed on my virtual machine. Now if you're doing this with Windows as a dial boot, then you should click no in here because that's not safe. But since we're installing it as a virtual machine, so it is going to be the only machine on this virtual machine, or the only operating system on this virtual machine, I'm gonna keep it at yes, and I'm gonna click on continue. Okay, now it's telling me that the installation was successful, so I'm gonna click on continue, and it's just gonna finish up and remove maybe some of the temporary files that were created. Okay, now it's actually booting up into my Kali Linux, the machine that we just installed. So now the installation is complete, and as you can see that we successfully installed Kali Linux as a virtual machine inside my main machine, which is Linux in this case, but you can do the same with Windows or Mac OS or any other operating system.